So we are going to talk about the continued drama between the Senate President and Adams Oshiomhole. Okay, I'll say Adams Oshiomhole because it takes two to tango. At this point, it's Adams Oshiomhole granting lots of interviews, and he's not even holding back. He's concerned about the recent amendment to the Senate standing orders, rules that many people see as stellar towards sidelining certain senators ahead of the 2027 election, although the Senate did reverse this. But let's listen carefully to what Adams Oshiomhole has to say about making laws with people in mind. Guys, let's take a listen.
Yeah, what S.A. and Ibumiri said is correct. And that is why I say the fight is not over. Because even the current Senate president, Godswill Akpabio, did 4 years. Subsequently, he lost election to the Senate and he became a minister. Now he came back this term and he became Senate president. If you add the first term plus the current one, he would not have done 8 years. Indeed, he's probably doing the 4, 5, 6, maybe he's approaching 7 years now. So if 8 years is a minimum requirement, he doesn't have the right to preside because he has not acquired the qualification. Right. If he got it in error, it has to be corrected. So that is why you don't make laws with people in mind. Number two, there is another thing that Adegbomire did not amplify, and that is the word consecutively. If you say consecutively, it means the first tenure of the distinguished Senate President, Akpabio, in the 8th Senate will not count because he was not in the 9th Senate, and therefore is not consecutive. Strictly speaking, by the interpretation of the rules that have been made, he has only done, he's approaching 3 years as a senator for the purpose of ranking. For the purpose of ranking. Okay. And I hold the view that this is just, for me, it's not adding value to the process. Nothing stop any senator from being Senate president for as long as first his people elect him or re-elect him and his colleague accept him. There's no shortcut to it. That's why I gave an example of distinguished Senator David Mark. He held that office for 8 years. And all he needed to do to hold the office for 8 years was to earn and sustain and service the trust line between the Senate presidency and the distinguished senators. Okay. Oftentimes you will hear David Mark saying, the senators are my bosses because they elect me. Because the only right you have is the one your constituency conferred on you, namely to be a senator. To be a Senate president, you are first among equals. And you know, when we turn our back and allow small things to happen, that is how Africans produce dictators that become bigger than their own country. That was just my point, nothing personal about it. I mean, for example, I know that what has informed that rule is the most publicized fact that there are a couple of former senators, like Ideta said you have to. Perhaps the most compelling case, obvious case would be that of Senator...
Guys, there you have it.
Senator Omoagege,
But
who was
I
a
pick
deputy
lines
senator.
a lot. So Senator Adams Oshiomhole actually declared that this is how Africa has produced dictators, indirectly pointing fingers at the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and the current leadership for allegedly making laws with specific people in mind, which of course is himself. But let us hold it on there. Let's not start clapping for Adams Oshiomhole. It's not now the hero. This is the same Adams Oshiomhole who fully supported the Edo State government when they threatened Peter Obi with consequences. That is, telling Peter Obi if he steps his foot into Edo State that he cannot guarantee his security. Same Adams Oshiomhole, who is now fighting for his ambition to become opposition himself as Senate President, is now using the word dictator and sounding very comfortably on his lips. And notice how this conversation is quite important to Adams Oshiomhole because despite the fact that these rules were reverted, Oshiomhole still finds the need to grant interviews and keep the conversation going. And this tells you that this is not just longer about the Senate standing role. This is political projection. It's a strategic positioning for whatever comes in the future. It's trying to tell those of you who did not get the information then that this conversation is still ongoing. And Nigerians must stop turning politicians into heroes overnight. Politicians do not have permanent loyalty. They just have interest. And once that interest begins to clash, they begin to fight each other. Tomorrow, they realign again for the same cause. And so that is how power games begin in Nigeria. They begin with public outrage, advocacy, fighting for the people. Before you know it, the propaganda begins that the Edo man has never been the Senate president. And before you know it, the fight and the shuffle starts. And suddenly, the Northerner becomes the tiebreaker and then the next Senate president. It is a truth at a time. Take care and have a nice day.